If you aren't sleeping well, you aren't living well. Get great devices designed to help you sleep better from Sleep On. Support our programming and shop at bit.ly/HMTV Use promo code DPFSLP15 to save an additional 15% at checkout. Get these Sleep On devices and sleep better than you ever have before. Get them today. It is Chris Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and joining me today is one of the greatest guitar players that is out there today, and I know he's heard that a million times before, and he's a humble guy, so he'll never accept it, but it is the truth. He's one of the best. He is he's best known for his awesome band Symphony X, but he's quickly becoming known for this great solo music that he's been putting out. Put out the War of the Worlds Part 1 a little bit ago, and now he's back with an even more stellar collection of songs with War of the Worlds Part 2. So joining me on Chris Akin Presents today is the great Michael Romeo. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks, dude. That's
sure
a lot of good stuff going on right there.
Well, as I told you before we started, man, I am a total fan, and I'll be honest, I get tired of waiting for Symphony X, man. It's like, I'll tell you just real quick. I've interviewed you several times. I've interviewed Russell several times. I've interviewed Mike numerous times, and every time I ask you guys the same question: when's the next record going to be
coming? Yeah.
And you guys all have the same answer, which is a straight lie. It's you guys all say, well, I hope it won't be as long as the next one or the last one. And then each time it's a little longer and a little longer and a little longer, man. It's like, you're aging it, I guess, like fine wine, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can't rush this stuff. And I think we all still care about what we do. So it's not like some cookie cutter. Let's just do a record and churn one out. And, it takes time, and yeah, it does take a little longer than it should, I guess.
Right.
But no, we care. We care about what we do, and
sure,
we put a lot of thought into it, and we put a lot of time into working on this stuff. So
right.
it is what it is,
Exactly.
And I think and over the last couple of years, it's just been compounded by Russ being in the accident, and then we took a little time off with that.
Right.
It was a little downtime. And then 2019, during that downtime is when I started, working on some of these solo records. I, wanted to keep busy, and, I thought there was some stuff I could do that maybe wasn't right for the band, and more, I don't know, cinematic kind of thing, or some electronic stuff, just whatever, just being in the studio and being silly and being creative and goofing around.
Sure.
So in that downtime, part 1 did that. And then 2019, we're back touring, and things are like, all right, yeah, we're good to go. And then we had a tour, huh?
And then bang, the pandemic.
Yeah, then the fucking shit hit the fan, and that was the end of it. And but we did have a tour in 2020. I think it was April.
Okay.
So in the beginning of 2020, I was like, well, I had this stuff for War of the Worlds. For the second half, because I had written everything at once, and I knew I had so much material. It's like, okay, I have part 1, put some aside for part 2, and at some point in the future, I'll come back. So in the beginning of 2020, I remember thinking, it's like, okay, the band has a tour coming up in a couple months. I could probably bang this out. A lot of the stuff was done. A lot of the drums and guitars and bass, a lot of the stuff was already done.
Sure.
And then the COVID thing just knocked everything, any kind of schedule, everything was just went to hell. So,
right.
That was just so much time that just, it just kind of went by, and it's like, there really wasn't anything you could do. You locked down, and I was trying to at least just get the second solo record finished. And it just really, any kind of timeline, or just trying to schedule your life and figure out what you're doing, it just went nuts.
Sure.
And now it's like, we're I was talking to the guys the other day. I was talking to Russ. I was talking to LaPond, and I mean, we've been talking for months now. It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this record? And it's just a slower process even than normal, just because I think, we haven't played on stage in 2 years, and there's all this downtime, and now it's like, all right, trying to come back to it, and it's like, it's just a little harder than normal, even for me. I'll come down here every day, and it's like, I'm going to try to work on some riffs, and what do I got? And it's like, oh, this is okay. And so just trying to get that inspiration is definitely harder now.
Oh,
but
yeah.
just for now, just because, like, we haven't done band stuff for so long, and just things like just being on the bus and being stupid and doing goofy things, and I mean, it's all part of the thing. And then you come back and you're writing something and you're thinking about the show, and it's like, oh, this new thing, this would be great live in this part, and but all those things now, it just kind of seems so distant.
Sure.
That yeah, it's just kind of just trying to get over that hump initial to get the ball rolling. I mean, we're all doing what we need to do.
Sure. It's very much like when you haven't worked out in years, and then all of a sudden you join a gym, and you just can't get going. I get it. I think everybody's going through that, not just musicians, but
yeah, everybody. Yeah.
But I do think that musicians are hit extra hard with this because unlike most people where there were some kind of modification where they could modify their job or modify their life or whatever, it isn't like that for you guys. You guys do two things. You record music, you play it. And I think most of you, especially you guys that were seasoned enough, were smart enough to know it doesn't make sense to record when we're all locked up and we're all depressed, because it'll just be shitty music.
Or it could be really angry music too.
It could be. Yeah. But a lot of, I mean, I'll tell you, and this is not your record, because as I told you before, I love this record, but a lot of the stuff that I'm getting right now is exactly how I felt in mid 2020. Depressed, sad, slow, it all feels that way. And, bravo to you for having this thing already done, so you didn't fall into that trap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, luckily a lot of it was done. So
right.
It was just a matter of going back to it and finishing it up.
Sure.
But, yeah, I mean, the time that's passed, it takes the wind out of your sails a little bit, because things are going great. And it's like, oh yeah, I'll get this solo record done. Oh, here we got this tour in 2020 and things are going to be great, and work on a new Symphony X record. Then all of a sudden it's just like, bam. And like you said too, it's like, yeah, some people, they do their job at home and they're on Zoom and they don't have to go to the office. And it's like, well, for us, it's like, I mean, that's,
yeah. For you, literally, there is no office. There's no office to go to.
The fucking bus is the office,
Right.
So it's like, what are we going to do? And it's just always been getting harder too. I mean, back in the day, we're selling a lot of records and CDs, and you're moving physical product, and it's like, okay, the band, we're getting by financially, things are okay. And then, then you have all this streaming and Spotify and all these things, so that takes a cut. And it's like, oh shit, okay, now what? All right, well, you have the touring. It's like, all right, yeah, we could tour, that's good. So then when the COVID thing, and it's like, oh, well, can't do that now either. So it's just like, it's like, well, what are we doing? Like, what are we supposed to do now? It's like, oh, let's be really inspired and work on a record. It's like you're digging down to try to find some inspiration, but when you look around at everything, it's like, oh man, things are just not good.
Sure. No, I hear you, man. Well, the one thing that is good is this War of the Worlds Part 2. So good. So thanks. Your riffs are just fucking ridiculous on some of these things. Before we get into the riffs and the music of it, though, I got to talk about what I'm sure is the big question everybody's asking, which is that you worked with Dino Jalusic, who's absolutely amazing in his own right. Yeah. For the life of me, I can't figure out why he joined on to Whitesnake to become the keyboard player instead of being a singer, because he's an amazing, amazing singer. But talk a little bit about, how did you find him? Was he just somebody who's recommended to you, or were you actually looking at singers, or how did you find him?
Uh, well, when I knew I was going to do this part two, I knew I was going to
Mm-hmm.
get back to it and finish it. Yeah, I mean, I even like early on, I was like, oh, maybe let me try something different because on the first one, it was a friend of mine, Rick,
Yeah,
kind of unknown guy, a good friend of mine, and I thought he's, great singer, and be kind of cool, give a unknown guy a chance, and
sure,
somebody gave me a chance, and it was just trying to, you know, pass it along.
sure.
But for this one, I was like, all right, let me try something different, and I remember thinking maybe I would have different singer on every song kind of thing, a bunch of different guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that's really not the right thing for this, I'm thinking.
Sure.
And then I was thinking, okay, who else? I know a lot of guys. I'm like, oh, maybe this guy, maybe this. And then actually I was talking to Simone one day, um, in Italy, doing, he does all the mixing and mastering.
Sure.
And he's like, oh man, let me just ask my friend Dino, he would love to do it. So Simone put us together,
Okay.
and then I talked to Dino, and he was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I love to do it." And then sending some tracks, and he's sending back some vocals, and it's like, "Oh man, this is perfect." And I mean, everything he was doing was perfect for what you
Sure.
know. He just got it immediately. I mean, just like just like JD and just like Macaluso, I said, okay, this is kind of my thing I'm doing, and it's like, of course, here's my idea, but put your own stuff into it and make it your own too. And the same with Dino. It's like, well, here's my melodies and here's my thing. But if you got an idea, or maybe you want to put on harmony, or maybe I'm thinking that the melody should go up and you want to go down so it feels more natural, it's like, yeah, go for it.
Sure.
So that's how
No,
that all worked out.
no question. Well, you obviously gave him a lot of good stuff to work with. Listening to this, as an outsider, and War of the Worlds 1, to be honest, there's a lot of stuff that I could pull out and just say, yeah, you could throw Russell on top of this and it could be Symphony X. I mean, that's always going to be, I think, with you, because
Yeah,
you
I
have
mean,
a very
it's,
distinct sound to your guitar playing.
yeah.
What is it in your head as a player, in your hands or wherever it comes from, that differentiates this stuff from Symphony X to you?
I mean, yeah, of course, there's going to be similarities. It's my riffs. It's the way I think about things. Um, I think the difference is just doing maybe things that the band kind of wouldn't do. Like talk about like that first one, and there's like some kind of dubstep metal
Right.
goofiness going on, and it's just having fun, man. Just having fun down here. And the band. Now we would, you know, I don't think that would ever happen with the band. So it's
Right.
just things like that, or maybe even more of the cinematic orchestral sections with the guitar that are more extended, and it's more that thing.
Okay.
So I think with the solo record, just different things like that, different things that um, maybe the band wouldn't do, or maybe in a solo context, I could do more with it. Like the band,
Right.
yeah. I mean, we always have some kind of orchestral element, like the Odyssey or something.
Mm-hmm.
But on this, it's like, okay, maybe even more so. Maybe just the guitar and the orchestra, or maybe there's synths in there, and maybe there's sound design, and there's all these other things. So that's what, to me, trying to make it different.
Sure. No question. Now, the other difference to me is, and again, this is as a fan, so tell me if I'm wrong, but thematically it feels, while it all kind of is in the sci-fi landscape, it definitely feels like you had different ideas on this one than the last one. Even though you wrote it together, it doesn't feel like, to me anyway, it doesn't. When I listen to one and then listen to two, it does not feel like one continuous piece. It feels like there's a distinct difference, and I don't know if it's attitude or message or what. So did it feel like that to you, that it is two distinct pieces, or not at all?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
the majority, 90% was written when I wrote part one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So most of it was there. Uh, Maybe some of the tracking that wasn't done with guitars and things. Yeah, maybe just from what was going on getting into 2020, maybe it's like, yeah, it's a little more like I'm kind of pissed off kind of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, to me, I mean, it feels like thematically, melodically, there's a lot of these same kind of themes in there. Um, maybe on this one, I was trying to look for different things. Again, looking for things that would be different. And so there's some 7 strings, so maybe that makes it a little heavier, a
Sure.
little darker. Um, yeah, but to me, it feels. I mean, it feels. It's the same stuff, dude.
All right, fair enough.
Pretty
Like I
much.
said, and like I said, I'm just listening as a fan, and I'm like, all right, this is and love them both. I just thought this one is definitely heavier to me. This one is, and like you said, it's probably the seven string guitar that really adds that crunch to it.
It's definitely that. I mean, even though there's like maybe only 3 songs, maybe with the 7 string. I think there's 3.
Okay.
And actually, those 3 were the ones that I did that were written a little more. They're more new.
Okay.
Looking back at part 1 and 2, the stuff I had left over, I was short a little bit. I thought I had more stuff, and then you go back and it's like, oh man, this really is a little bit not enough material for a record. So I had to actually put some things together, and I just went back to my original sessions and ideas I had, and like Destroyer was one of those songs. I kind of had the riff, but it was on a 6 string.
Right.
I was like, oh man, this would be really brutal. This would be badass lower. And then it's like, oh, let me try the 7 string. And then that's where that all came from. So some of those songs, yeah, they were later on. And the 7 string definitely, yeah, man, it's a little darker tone. It's a little heavier. It's a little more mean, you know?
Sure. What is it for you that drives you to try different things like that? To try a 7 string? I mean, do you just see somebody else do it and you're like, well, wait a minute, if he can do it, I can do it? Or, I mean, are you sitting around waiting to try the Hydra from Steve Vai? Or, what drives you to try different things?
Yeah, I mean, it's just if I'm sitting here and I'm writing something, like take that song Destroyer, for instance. I'm like, okay, it has this, when I first opened up the basic riff I had, I was like, I could probably put this song together relatively quick. And I was like, yeah, that riff's cool, but man, it'd be so much meaner. And it's like, okay, 7 string. It's like, all right, so that's one. And then it's like, all right, it has this Middle Eastern kind of vibe going on. And it's like, okay, I'd like to have some of that in there as texture, maybe a different instrument. And it's like, normally I'll reach for a synth or a virtual instrument. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me try some real instruments, So
Sure.
I got my hands on like a Saz and an oud. I don't know if I can see this.
Nice. Wow.
You see that shit down there?
There it is. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, just trying different stuff. It's like, okay, you want to be creative. You want to add something to the song that could be cool.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I'll try the 7 string, or I'll try one of these. And then it's like, all right, well, then you get it. And it's like, all right, well, shit, I got to figure out, how this all works. How do I tune this thing, and what's, all the mechanics of playing it.
Right.
But yeah, a couple days, I'm good enough to at least get something down on tape.
Yeah, I would say.
And then it works.
Right. And it definitely works. Well, Michael, one thing that's very obvious about your entire career is that you definitely have a love, or at least an appreciation for sci-fi. You tend to very much write from there. Are you, outside of music, where do you get that from? Are you a movie guy, or do you read books, or
fucking movies? I'm all about the movies, man.
Okay.
Even when I was a kid. And I think that has a lot to do with the way I think about music. And I just remember, being young, and I would love, all the monster movies and all those clay cyclopses and dragons and that Ray Harryhausen and all those kind of things. And even when I was young, there was something about that music that, like, to this day, it stuck with me, and a lot of it's like Bernard Herrmann, and it's that, mysterious island and that kind of otherworldly music. And there's just something cool. It's epic and it's different. And that always was a thing for me. So movies, and then of course, you get into John Williams and Jaws and E.T. and Star Wars and all that. And then
Right.
by that point, I'm really paying attention to the music in those
Sure.
movies. So yeah, I love the movies and I love that relationship of film and music.
Sure. Do you think it's still as strong today? I mean, there's so much more content now than there ever was before, and it seems like everybody's switched from movies to these really long TV shows, like The Expanse, as an example. The Expanse, has 50 hours of that show. But I don't think it incorporates the music like it did in the old days. Like, you hear 3 notes of the Star Wars theme, you know what you're watching no matter what, or
Yeah. Yeah.
or Jaws, or any of that stuff. I don't think it's quite the same now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the majority, no, it's not the same. But I mean, a lot of the bigger budget movies, like they'll have a guy like Williams or any of
Mhm.
these A-list Hollywood guys or Zimmer or something like that.
Sure.
So like, yeah, usually that music is on point and it's going to be great.
Right.
Um, but even like a big long series, like take Game of Thrones. I mean, I think that music's fantastic,
Sure.
fantastic too. So yeah, I mean, yeah, sometimes it could be a series, sometimes it could be a big film, but and usually those kind of films are this more sci-fi or a
Mhm.
fantasy thing or something a little darker. That kind of music to me, I mean, there might be a drama or something and has it's perfect music or Forrest Gump, music's
Right.
perfect, fantastic. But
Sure.
if I'm working on something that I want to put like in a song, yeah, it's gonna go more on the darker side, on the epic side, and it's gonna be more that way.
Right. Certainly. Now, have you ever pursued or even thought about pursuing getting into that world? I mean, it just seems like in today's world, we're moving away financially. And I know this is a straight financial question, but it seems we're moving away from music being financially as viable as
Mm,
where now, instead of having a hit single, the big thing is to be, that exit credit song in a $200 million movie.
yeah.
Have you
Hey,
ever
there's
pursued
nothing
that?
there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with that. I mean, I got my hands in it a little bit. I've done a couple like low budget horror movies. I've done some different things for people and film and TV. Even behind the scenes stuff, I've done some arranging for guys and things that
Okay.
composers I know that's their full time gig, and it's cool. I mean, yeah, like I've been doing more and more of it,
Sure.
and it's just kind of cool because you're so used to, if I come down here and I'm writing, it's just like I'm thinking Sabbath and Priest and Maiden, and friggin' Randy Rhoads and Van Halen. I'm in
Right.
that world. And then something comes along and it's like, oh, here's like this goofy cartoon thing. Can you do this thing? And it's like, oh wow, it's totally over here. And it's
Sure.
kind of cool, to just step away from your normal thing. And then you come back to your normal thing. And it's like, oh yeah, man, this is sometimes taking that break from doing something totally different is cool.
Sure. No question, man. Well, Michael, obviously, with the world opening up, allegedly,
Yeah.
touring is going to be on the table again here at some point. When it is, what specifically will you look to tour? Will you look to tour Symphony X? Will you look
Yeah. All right.
to tour solo stuff? I mean, what will you look to do?
No, I mean now like the priority is the band because like
Okay.
we just haven't, like we were saying before, just like haven't done band things and just doing all those normal things. So
Mhm.
we have this tour coming up in May here in the
Great.
States, and I know we're all psyched, totally psyched about it. Maybe a little, just from not doing it so long, but it's like riding a bike. I mean, we'll be fine.
Sure.
We'll be fine. It's no big
Mhm.
deal. Um, and then we're, looking at Europe and what's going on there. It's like, oh, we're not really sure. I mean, there's some festivals that are on the books, and it's like, oh, okay. I hope this happens. Um, but like you said, allegedly, that's a
Yeah.
good that's a good word. Allegedly, things are getting better.
Right. That's when you're on the stage, then you'll believe it, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be weird for a second too. That first
Sure.
show is just gonna be like, oh man, this is
Sh-
this is different.
Sure. Any fears of it? Not, and I don't mean playing. I mean interacting with the fans and shaking hands and all that
No,
kind of stuff?
I mean, I think that's the thing that we all miss. You know,
Right.
that's the thing. It's like I was saying before. Like sometimes I'm down here, we're talking about the band, we're writing a song or putting some ideas together, and it's like, oh, that one riff in this song and live, and everybody and it's like, yeah, well, yeah, that's a perfect kind of vibe, yeah. So you're thinking about this as you're writing too. It's all kind of in your mind, and
Sure.
that goes away, and it's like, oh man, kind of forgot that feeling is like. So yeah, the first show, man, maybe might be some butterflies or something, but that first second you're out there and you're doing the thing, and you see some happy faces, and it's freaking great after that.
Sure, no question. Well, until that time, Michael, everybody should check out War of the Worlds Part 2. It is out March 25th, I believe.
Yeah.
And where should we tell people to go to keep up with you and the band and releases and tours and all that stuff?
Anywhere, but like I said, the first thing as far as touring is definitely the band,
Symphony X. Okay.
So that's in May. So hopefully we get some people to come out and see us
Absolutely.
and keep things going, man. We just want to keep things going.
No question, man. Well, all right, Michael. Well, once again, War of the Worlds Part 2, March 25th. It is out. It is fantastic. And even if you can't wait that long, go listen to Divide and Conquer online. It's a fantastic tune and a cool video to go with it.
Yeah.
And Michael, thanks so much for joining me here on CHRIS AKIN Presents.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Great time, man. Great time.
Oh, yeah. With trucker strikes and rising inflation, food shortages are becoming a big problem. Don't let yourself get caught unprepared. Buy a food survival kit today from My Patriot Supply and save. Over 2,000 calories a day to keep you healthy and strong, with a 25-year shelf life to ensure it's ready for you when the shit hits the fan. Go to www.bit.ly/CMSPN food, order your supplies today, and invest in yourself and your family now before it's too late. www.bit.ly/CMSPN food, My Patriot Supply.